Hello, this is Soma from Triangle Canvas and welcome to Watercolor Doodle Workshop. So to doodle is to scribble absent-mindedly, that's the dictionary meaning, but doodling as an art form is a great way to relax. Watercolor doodling is one way to use doodling to make easy patterns, characters, and crafts. However, if you haven't painted with watercolors and fear it's a finicky medium that you must master before you can doodle with them, then you need not worry. In this particular technique, just the way that a child would color on a coloring sheet, watercolors are used to color or make shapes and draw objects. So let's get started. Step 1. Trace your alphabet right side up on watercolor paper by using the reverse hatching technique, which basically means you saturate the back of the print with pencil marks, and then the alphabet should be penciled in with a very light touch once you have transferred it onto your paper. Step 2. With a 2B pencil and a very light touch, outline the shapes of flowers around and behind the alphabet. It's best to have one or two larger shapes for the feature flower or pair of flowers, along with an assortment of many smaller shapes for the smaller varieties. For this step, you can use any stencil or pattern you can find online, with many of which are free. Step number 3. Paint the flowers using your favorite colors. You could try different brush sizes and different shapes. You can use smaller brushes for smaller flower doodles and larger brushes for larger flower doodles. In essence, flower doodles are repetitive brush marks made within a profile that mimic real flowers. For instance, an outline of a pyramid with violet markings within could be a lavender or lilac clusters. So if you press your brush hard, you will get bigger marks or petal shapes. If you paint your doodle with a light touch, you will get finer marks, which are great for making smaller petals and leaves. The tip or the key is to mimic the natural arrangement of petals. The rest falls in place. Step number 4. In the next step, you could paint in or doodle the leaves. Liner brushes or fine brushes are ideal for the tendrils and the finer details and veins inside the leaves. For the leaves itself, you could use a variety of brushes. So I like to use a round brush and doodle two curves facing each other. Now, depending on whether I've pressed too hard or lightly, the shapes could differ. Proceed to the next step once the doodled flowers and foliage have dried and you're relatively happy with the arrangement. I tend to be a little bit intuitive in this step because in addition to the flowers that I have painted in, sometimes I like to change things as I go. Step number 5. Make the alphabet stand out with contrasting watercolor pigments. You may use a Sharpie if you're unsure of your brush skills. Now, one thing I would recommend is to ensure that you draw around the sections which which overlap the alphabet. And the other thing is, if you're going to use a contrasting watercolor pigment, start with a pale wash and you could build up the intensity of pigment once the color is dry and if you're not happy with it, because compared to acrylics, watercolors, if you make a mistake, you cannot paint over. So the best strategy is to basically start light and then build up the pigment intensity if you're not happy with it. Step number 6, just take a look at the colors once they have dried. Now, in a few places, I have realized that the edges of the alphabets aren't neat, or maybe some sections look patchy. So once dry, you could go over and repaint the sections with another pale wash or build up the pigment intensity as needed. Step number 7, or is it 6? I've lost count. But share your work with pride. Put it in a frame. Show it off to your family and friends. The smaller sizes are great for greeting cards or gift tags. You could also or use it as a background for your mixed media projects. The possibilities are really endless with this one. Before you leave, here are a few tips for you to get the most out of the creative process. So tip number one, try to paint loose to avoid getting fixated on perfection. Focus on the bigger picture rather than the details. Remember, this is doodle art and it's meant to be fun, whimsy and imperfect. Second tip, focus on the repetitions of shapes around a tangible axis or a core. For instance, in case of flowers, the flower petals are arranged around a central core, or they might be in a cluster like in a lavender. Mimic that and the rest falls in place. Tip number three, the best doodle art or any art for that matter results when you create without overthinking any step and fear of judgment. Tip number four, test run all your brushes, including the dodgy ones, to identify what marks they can make for you. Any mark can be used to create flowers by a simple process of repetition and arrangement. So that's how you create watercolor floral doodles, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. For more videos, please don't forget to like, click on subscribe. Bye for now.